Between East 181st Street and East 182nd Street along Prospect Avenue in the Bronx lies the Garden of Happiness. Rising out of a garbage-filled, city-owned lot in the 80s, the garden provides fresh produce for city dwellers. The Parks Department website calls the garden not only a neighborhood gathering spot, but a veritable center for the community. It spans only a fraction of an acre, or 5.5 volleyball courts to put that in perspective. Karen Washington, who has farmed on the garden since the late 80s, still describes it as an ongoing project. What we have here we should take pride in, and that's what we're trying to instill throughout the neighborhood, she says. It is possible that many city folk have never been on an urban farm before, but as noted by Will Allen, founder of Growing Power Incorporated, a group trying to help people grow food and build communities around farming, says that the urban agricultural movement has picked up steam. Quote, "This has become a multicultural, multi-generational movement, a revolution. This isn't just the hippies and tree huggers. Everyone is getting on board. It's really exciting."
The garden started back in 1988. I moved here in the Bronx in 1985 and lived across the street. And what they were supposed to do is that they were supposed to continue the single-family homes from that house there all the way to this fence. But when the developer got to this spot here, there was so much bedrock that he would have to put a lot of thousands and thousands of dollars out of pocket. So he left the project. So he just left the empty lot. He just walked away. And so you can see after, you see empty lot, garbage and abandoned cars. And I'm saying to myself, I moved to this block to get a part of the American dream, and now it's become my American nightmare. In my case, in the Garden of Happiness case, we use this as a sort of a respite, a meditation, because the kids in here can go crazy, and sometimes you just need that quiet space. Morning. Okay, everybody. Come on out. As a little girl, and I remember 8 years of age, I always tell this story that I used to get up early in the morning to watch cartoons. Before cartoons came on, there was a program called the Farm Report. And I always dreamed about having my own farm one day, but I grew up in the projects, and so it was like a dream.
Right.
And then when I moved here in the Bronx and I got a piece of land in my backyard and I started growing things and really realized the taste and the quality of the food that I was growing, that this is something that, I wanted to do for health reasons. I was raising 2 kids and I found it as a hobby, but I became more passionate when I started growing food here in the Garden of Happiness, not only because it was to fill a need to grow healthy food, but also the social implications that come with gardening here in an urban area. Not only is it about growing food, but there's housing issues, education issues, crime, a lot of things that interact and tie when you think about growing in an urban area. Last year, I went to California at the Santa Cruz. It's called the Center of Agroecology and Food System. It's a program in Santa Cruz. I went there because I wanted to learn how to become a farmer. And also the most important aspect of the food system is the social justice aspect, and how so many farmers throughout this world are not being respected, are working in conditions that do not meet standards in terms of minimum wage, health standards, and that as a group we have to sort of band together to educate the population at large that food is a critical part of our being, and without food we don't exist.
How would you go about convincing someone who's used to going to the supermarket, going to C-Town to pick up their produce? They don't know where it comes from. How do you convince them that, oh, well, you have this community garden in your neighborhood, why don't I go here instead?
Right. Well, we started that when we did our farmers market, and when we were asked to start a farmers market in our neighborhood to do just that, to provide to provide fresh and affordable produce in a neighborhood of color and low-income neighborhood, people told us that we were crazy. They said that, oh, those people don't want fresh vegetables. Those people can't afford it. And so as community gardeners and urban farmers, since we grow the food, we know what we grow it, we took it upon ourselves to start our own farmers market, with the intention of not only providing that, but the educational piece about it, telling people exactly where their food came from, number one, and also how to cook it. Because it doesn't make sense if you provide the availability, the affordability of a produce, and the person takes it home and they don't know how to use it. Educate the consumer to ask questions about where their food comes from, to tell them exactly, you know what, this came from the garden right down the street, or this came from the garden on Prospect Avenue between 181st and 182nd Street, or this is a farmer, here he is, go ask the questions where his farm, where he farms. And that not only in terms of community gardens, but also making that link between urban and rural, which is so important, and having customers talk to the farmers that are on site at our market, and also giving them information that, you know, this beet came from Ray Rockham. Ray Rockham's farm is right on Long Island. It's 30 miles away, and here's some pictures, and here's his picture, and here's his telephone number. And it's baby steps. We cannot change the dynamic of a food system that has been broken for years, but what we can do is that we can be an outlet for information. And it's going to take time for people to sort of change their ways, but as people continue to get sick, and then they understand that a lot of their health problems come from the food that they eat, then it's going to be paramount for them to start asking questions. Like, why I'm so sick? Why is my child at 13 almost 200, 300 pounds? And if you look at the dynamics of where our food comes from and how that plays in terms of our neighborhood, where there's so many fast food restaurants that outweigh hospitals, health clinics, health food stores, then it makes common sense.
I feel like when I talk to random people, when I talk to my friends, not a lot of them know about it. It's sort of, how is it, it seems almost impossible to get people, you know, in the know, on board and excited. Is there anything that you're trying to do to outreach?
Oh, definitely. Well, first of all, I just want to set the record straight that this sort of phenomenon of urban agriculture is nothing new, because people have been in the trenches growing food for over 20, 30 years.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that that's in its right context. So how do you then teach young people about it? And you have to go into the schools. You have to go into the schools. You have to have those conversations, go to the after-school centers, and talk to young people about the history around food and how they can play a bigger part in the role of urban ag.
What do you foresee for the future? What do you think that this is going to be like in 10, 20 years?
How many backyard gardeners and urban farmers we don't even know about? So encouraging people, instead of growing that lawn that takes a lot of chemicals and water, how about turning something as a green lawn and something as green vegetables and fruits, and promoting that conversation around people that already have backyards and front yards, encourage them to grow more food. So I think you'll see that sort of movement really stirring up. And then for those people that can't, how about donating, your backyard, your front yard to a group of people who will be willing to grow food for you?